What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Horror. This is Ethan Horror, and today I decided to do a fun little video. We're going to be going through 26 movies because we're going to be doing my favorite horror movie from every letter of the alphabet. So if it starts with A, starts with B, starts with C, so on and so forth. Couple things. If it starts with A, such as A Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm not going to count the A, I'm just going to count the first word, so it would count as N. And if it starts as like The Descent, that would be a D. So just A and the, like any of those kinds of words, they don't count. So basically, first main word is what I'm going off of. But we got 26 movies to go through, so it's going to take a little bit, so let's just get right into the video.
Johnny!
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! Yes. Yes, God.
Starting off with letter A, my favorite movie from that letter is going to be As Above, So Below. It was between this or Aliens, but definitely this one, because this is the movie that got me into a horror fan. I would not be here without this movie. It's the first horror movie I've ever watched, but it wasn't necessarily the movie that got me into horror, but it was the first one I ever watched, so this is how I knew that I liked horror. And I kind of owe everything to that movie, and I mean, it's still a good movie. I love found footage movies, so it's one of the ones I hold close to my heart because I love found footage, and it was one of the first. So really like As Above, So Below. Next up, next letter in the alphabet is B, and my favorite movie from B is going to be Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Honorable mention to Blair Witch. Now, I've told this story a lot, but I love The Blair Witch 2. I don't get why people hate this movie so much. No, I do. I do get it. But I feel like everyone should give it a chance because, I mean, obviously I gave it a chance and I loved it. So I think everyone should give this movie a chance. It's not a well-made movie. It doesn't make much sense, but I do really, really like this movie, and I'd say it's in my top 10, which is insane even for, like, I know I love this movie and it still sounds insane saying that Blair Witch 2 is in my top 10 because I, until about a year ago had no idea this movie even existed. Next up we have C, which I actually had 2 movies in my top 10 that start with C. The one I chose to go with was Cam, but honorable mention to The Conjuring, which was also my top 10 horror movies. Cam is a super underrated movie. It's on Netflix, so it's easy to obtain. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody watching probably has Netflix. Go check it out. It's about sex workers, so, if you don't want to watch something about that, then I guess don't. But it is a very good movie. It's a kind of a horror movie without a villain. There isn't really a villain. It's about identity theft, and there really isn't a villain. It's not like a slasher where there's like a person hunting you down. It's just she gets her identity stolen by an AI, and it's at her going through trying to get her identity back. And I really, really loved what this movie did, and it's in my top 10. So go check it out. Next up is the letter D. There was a couple that I was debating. Honorable mention to The Descent, but the one I decided to go with was Dr. Sleep. Now, Dr. Sleep is an incredible follow-up to The Shining, which, when they announced they were doing a sequel to The Shining, I'm pretty sure everybody on planet Earth decided that that was a terrible idea. But Stephen King wrote a book that was a sequel to The Shining, so I kind of had a little bit of faith, but it just depended on who they gave to do it. And I think the director I forgot his name, but the guy that they gave to do it did an absolutely phenomenal job. He casted Ewan McGregor, who is phenomenal in this movie, and Rose the Hat is a great villain. I think this is a perfect follow-up to The Shining. Maybe not as good as The Shining, but yeah, it's close. Next letter that we have is E, and I had very few options. I decided to go with the Evil Dead remake. Now, the Evil Dead is alright. I don't really love the original, but I do love the remake. And if you're wondering what my other options were, it was any of the Evil Dead movies or any of the Evil Bong movies. So, be happy I went with Evil Dead. Next up, we have F. And I could have picked any of the Friday the 13th movies, which is my favorite horror franchise, and I decided to choose Freddy vs. Jason, because that's my favorite slasher movie ever. It's because this is the movie that got me into being a horror fan. I watched this on the same night that I watched As Above, So Below, and I fell in love. And the reason that we watched this movie is completely stupid, because guess what? You know, my friend Lyric, he's been in a couple videos, he wanted to watch a Freddy Krueger movie, and I was like, I want to watch a Jason movie. Guess what happened? I was like, I think there might be a way to do both. And we watched Freddy vs. Jason, and we both fell in love with horror movies, and me definitely more than him. He's not as obsessed with them as I am, but I fell in love. The only thing I wanted to do was talk and watch horror movies after that, and I still think it's a great movie, mainly because of nostalgia, but it's a fun movie. Next up, we have G, and there was very few options for this one. It was this or The Grudge or Gremlins, but Get Out is my favorite movie from G. Jordan Peele, obviously, he's incredible at making horror movies. He's made 3, and they're all pretty much amazing. The only one that I don't think is amazing is Nope, but I still think it's a pretty good movie. But this is probably my second favorite of his movies, and mainly because it does such a good job at unsettling you, of unnerving you when nothing is going on. Like, it's just him kind of around this house, and there's something about it that just feels off, and his ability to build tension out of nothing is great, and I love the concept of the brain swaps. That's great, and it's a scary movie, but it's also just unsettling. Next up, we have H, and that is going to be Hereditary. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time, favorite movies of all time. I think Hereditary is incredible. I don't think Midsommar held up as much as kind of Ari Aster's follow-up, but this movie, incredible. It is terrifying, it is gut-wrenching, and it is unnerving. It is everything a horror movie should be, but this one is also depressing, and it does such a good job at displaying all of those emotions, all of the family emotions, as well as just fear as this demon is haunting them around. And it has some horrific moments that even made me scared, and it had some shocking moments that even had me shocked. So I genuinely think Hereditary is one of the best horror movies ever made. Next up, we have I, and I don't think anybody who watches my channel has any. It's it. Like, that's my favorite horror movie. It's my second favorite movie of all time. It 2017. Like, do I need to explain? I've explained it 20 times. I bet I've talked about this movie at least 5 times on this channel. So just go find any video that's my favorite horror movies or my favorite movies, or I did a Stephen King movie ranking. You'll be able to find me talk about it. And next up, we have J, and that is going to be Jaws. There was 3 options. It was Jaws or any of the sequels, or Jeepers Creepers and any of the sequels. So you can obviously I went with Jaws. Jaws not only is one of the best horror movies ever made, it's one of the most influential movies ever made. It created the blockbuster, but I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times. That's not why it's good. The movie is great because Steven Spielberg, as such a young director, was able to make such an incredible movie that literally altered all of film. And it is incredible. Even now, watching it, it is a great movie. Still scaring people to this day. Not me personally, but I know some people who are genuinely terrified of Jaws. Next up, we have K. I had 2 options. It was Killer Clowns from Outer Space, or the one that I chose, Krampus. I don't love either of these movies, as much as the other movies I've talked about, but I think I chose Krampus mainly because it does a good job at playing this concept that could so quickly go completely off the walls goofy. They play it seriously and they do it well. Like, sure, Krampus looks a little bit weird. I mean, sure, he has like toys capturing people, but they do a good job at mixing the wackiness of it all with the scariness, and I think just they mesh so well that I'm willing to give Krampus a spot on this list. Next up, we have L. I had very few options. It was the Leprechaun movies, the Lost Boys movies, or the one that I saw this weekend, Lisa Frankenstein. This is the movie I needed. Good God, I loved it. I loved every second of it, and now I want Catherine Newton to be in every horror movie I watch from now on, because she is incredible, and I maybe it's just because I love Tim Burton, and this feels like a Tim Burton movie, but like, wow, I love this movie. Next up, we have M. Again, very few options to choose from, but we're gonna go with Megan. Another really recent movie, but I think those are like the two most recent. The rest of them are pretty old. I loved it. It's a good slasher. It's a funny movie. I really enjoyed it. I think it was my favorite horror movie of last year. Between this or Saw X, like, those are my two favorite horror movies last year. I loved it. Megan, she's a great villain. I'm excited to see her in the sequel, which I think is coming out next year. Next up, we have N. As I said, A Nightmare on Elm Street is not an A movie, it's an N movie, and it's my favorite one of those. Now, Nightmare on Elm Street is not my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. That's still Freddy vs. Jason, but this is my favorite horror movie that begins with the letter N. It goes without saying, it's on the list. I think this movie is incredible. It's a classic. Like, I'm pretty sure it would make most people's top 20 of all time list. Like, it's a classic horror movie. It's influential. Freddy Krueger is possibly the most iconic horror villain ever. Like, you know it's great. I know it's great. Some people might have Dream Warriors over it, but the original. Next up, we have O. Very few options, but there is a movie from this that I absolutely adore, Orphan. I love Orphan. Like, I love the first movie. The first kill is pretty good, but the original is incredible. It is so wild. The decisions and things that they do in this movie is absolutely insane, but I love every second of it, and Esther is one of my favorite horror villains ever. I love this movie. Like, go check it out. It's not a movie you can take seriously, but the twist in this movie is crazy, and everything leading up to it is just downright insane. So just go check this movie out if you're looking for a good time. Next up, we have P, and there was zero hesitation here. It's Paranormal Activity. This is my second favorite horror movie of all time. Sometimes I even debate whether I like it more than this. Next up, we have Q. Can you guess how many options I had? Quiet Place or Quiet Place Part 2. And Quiet Place Part 2 is not very good, so we're going to go with The Quiet Place. I mean, it's great. I know a lot of people know it's great. I don't think anyone really dislikes Hereditary, even if they... Did I just say Hereditary? What? They don't love it. It's still, like, at the very least, a 3-star movie. I'd say it's more of like a 4.5 star movie, but I really love the original Quiet Place. Next up, we have R. There was a surprisingly low number of R horror movies that I've seen. Ready or Not is my favorite. It's possibly my favorite horror comedy of all time. I love it. There was no hesitation that this was going to be my favorite. I guess, no, there was another one, The Ring, that I did debate putting here, but I don't like it nearly as much as Ready or Not. I love Samara Weaving. She does a great performance, and Grace is one of my favorite final girls of all time. Next up, we have S. Honorable mention to The Shining. Sorry. He barely got edged out by a movie that has a 0% on CinemaScore. Silent House. Please go give this movie a chance. Please. I know I just said it has a 0% on CinemaScore, but I watched it. I did not expect it to be good. I watched it simply because it's Elizabeth Olsen's first movie and it's a horror movie. I love Elizabeth Olsen. I love horror movies. That Elizabeth Olsen horror movie would be right up my alley. And yeah, it was. I did not expect to like this movie. I thought it was just going to be like a little low budget, crappy movie. And it is. But it's actually a very good movie. I like the themes that it does, and I think it actually does them fairly well. And it's one of those movies that they say that the camera, it's like it's all captured in real time because like the camera never breaks shot, even though like it does, but like the cuts are hidden so well that I really couldn't tell. But like the cinematography, like the camera movement is kind of bad. It's kind of distracting at some points how like the camera like goes out of focus or like is getting shaked around, but they were trying to portray the captured in real time, so I could kind of forgive it a little bit. But I do really love Silent House. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like a top 10, but definitely top 15 for me. Horror movies of all time, by the way. I love it. And I know a lot of people don't, but for me, it's a very good movie. Next up, we have T, another one of my top 5 horror movies, Trick or Treat. This is another one I watched with Lyric, and we both absolutely adored. Sam is one of my favorite horror villains, and this is one of my favorite horror movies. If you're looking for a horror movie to watch on Halloween, this is the one I always recommend. Next up, we have You, and there was 3 movies I could have picked. It was between Unfriended, Unfriended 2, and Us. I went with Unfriended Dark Web. I do love the original Unfriended, and I do love Us. I think all 3 of these movies are downright terrifying, but Unfriended Dark Web is my pick for You because I think it's scarier than the original Unfriended. I do think that is because it's more real. It's not a demon. It's just the dark web. Like these people who set up this group of friends so that they can frame them for some crimes and kill them. And like it is terrifying how like they're just so screwed the entire time because these hackers always have the upper hand. But one thing I do not like about the movie is how all these hackers manage to appear glitchy on every screen. Like, I don't know. That's not realistic at all. And it does have some good internet-themed kills, like a guy getting swatted. That scene is terrifying. Next up, we have W. If you saw my options, you would understand why I picked Wishmaster as my favorite from W. My other options were the Wrong Turn movies, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, yeah, and White Noise. So, yeah, no, I hopefully you'll understand why I picked Wishmaster. It's a fun movie. It's really about it. It's really fun. It's not necessarily a good movie, not necessarily one of the all-time classics. I mean, most people don't even know who the Djinn is, but he's a great horror villain, and it's a really fun movie. Kind of like, it's, the basic thing where you wish and your wish goes wrong, but in this case, the wish kills you. So, next up, we have the letter X, and guess what? One option. I had one choice, and that is X. The movie, not the letter. I mean, I guess the letter, but also the movie. And, fair enough. This is a good movie. I really like this movie. I guess I can't really say if it wasn't my only option, but, like, I honestly couldn't even name another horror movie that starts with X. But there is one, and it is just called X. And I do think it's really good. Jenna Ortega puts in a great performance. Mia Goth puts in a great performance. As both the characters she plays the villain and the final girl, which is insane and would be extremely hard to pull off, but they do it very well, and I think all the characters are well acted. I think it's just a genuinely good horror movie. Now we're down to the final 2 letters, and I only had one option for both of these. Y is going to be Your Next, and honestly, I'm not mad about that. It was the only option I had, but I absolutely loved Your Next. I'd say it's another one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's a slasher, one of my favorite slashers, definitely like top 20 for me. I think Erin is possibly my favorite final girl ever, up there with like Ginny Fields and Nancy Thompson. She is incredible in this movie. Just how she just basically kills everybody who stands in her way, and she's insane. So that's part of the reason. Also, I think it's genuinely scary at some point, and I love the concept. So yeah, Your Next is a great movie. And the only horror movie I've ever seen that starts with the letter Z, Zombieland. not a huge fan of Zombieland. I'm gonna be honest. I know a lot of people love Zombieland. I think it's pretty funny. I think it works better as a comedy than as a horror movie. And I don't even think it works very well as a comedy because I didn't laugh very much. I thought it was mostly just stupid. So, I mean, I like stupid movies, but like the humor didn't make me laugh very often. So, it's all right. But yeah, I didn't have any other options. So, Zombieland is Z. And that is going to be it for today, guys. Remember, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit like so you want to see more videos like it. Otherwise, you can go down to the comment section, comment down below some more video ideas, and until next time, if you want to see some more content from me, go down to my channel, hit subscribe, and hit the bell so you'll be notified when I post any brand new videos. Otherwise, you can just go click on my channel. If you're a horror fan, there's another video in there that you'll enjoy, I promise. And until next time, I'm Ethan Horror. This has been Ethan Horror.